Check, check. Check, check. Check.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome in. All right. Well, here we are. So obviously the subject matter of today is pretty heavy. We're going to be talking about Steven, tWitch boss, and what, trying to cope with a loss like this. It's one thing when a celebrity passes away that we feel it on a certain level, just because of maybe what their talents meant to us and things like that. And when it's someone in a community or part of it, it hits harder. And I've been dancing for since high school. And one of the reasons why I got into it as hard as I did was Twitch. He was, on So You Think You Can Dance, and he was just this incredibly talented dancer, of course. He ended up getting second place that year on the show. And, throughout the show, the contestants have to dance in many different styles and try to win based on their ability to not just do one thing. And also because reality TV is based on their personalities too, which was, reality TV. But even through that, you can tell when someone is genuinely a special person. And Twitch was clearly that. Most people got to know him from The Ellen Show, which even there it's clear how big of an impact he had and how much he meant to everyone that was a part of that, everyone that watched that show regularly. It's clear how much he meant to Ellen. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the video that she put out about their time on the show. But again, for me personally, though, well, I think I can't explain his impact on me without explaining what dance means to me, what it meant to me. I first started struggling with, there's depressive symptoms for, who knows, middle school maybe, but major depressive disorder, anxiety disorders, some other things. I started dealing with that in high school. And, it was a very dark time, as you can imagine. And dance was how I coped a lot of times. And there's not at least a dozen dancers that have had a big impact on me, especially Black male dancers who kind of showed me what I could be. It was a time in my life that I was, again, very depressed, in a very dark headspace, very dark place, which I'll get into more later. But there just wasn't many things that made me feel good about myself, made me feel confident, made me feel capable, made it feel like life had meaning. There were many things like that for me. There were a lot of meaningful things in my life, but because of depression, I couldn't feel it. And dance made me feel something, and watching Twitch when I was younger and kind of just getting into dance, it was like, that's possible. You know, not just hip hop, just dancing all these different styles well, succeeding, and touching people with art. I didn't feel like I could reach people in a meaningful way at the time. And I felt like if I did reach somebody, it was just going to be of short-term help, and you know, fast forward a couple months, it wouldn't matter anyway. They would forget about me, all those kind of things. You know, but then, you know, I'd see someone like Twitch and the impact he was having on me, and it made me believe a little bit, you know, that I could do something, create something that would reach people, and not through words, not through speaking, which ironically here I am, but just through movement, through just self-expression, and yeah, I credit dance with, you know, saving my life. I think that it was really the first thing that I felt was my own and felt proud of, and you know, it's following Twitch through the years, through social media, watching all of this stuff. It was just an inspiration for me to keep going, keep trying, and keep getting better. And there are times where I felt like dance was the only thing I had to look forward to. Going to dance class, you know, a new song would come out that I want to dance to and try to create to, and that'd get me through another week, you know. And fast forward more towards now, you know, seeing Twitch's life, seeing the effect he's had on people, seeing his family. You know, he had the life that I know I definitely wanted for a long time. And I don't know, I guess I want to pause just for a second, just for Twitch and all those people that actually knew him and loved him, before I get on to talking about depression and suicide and those hard things. Like, he was clearly a special person, and he'll be missed. He'll be missed. You know, as a dancer and someone in the dance community, in some level, not as much anymore, but getting back to it. You know, I have a lot of dance friends, a lot of people I follow that are dancers. It's been a rough 2 days. It just feels really heavy, you know, and I think anyone sees that and, you know, ask questions like, how could it be? How could he go? How could Twitch go? You know, he seems so happy, those kind of things. And I'll get more into that later, but he meant a lot, and I hope he knows how much he meant to people, genuinely. Depression could take us to so many places, and you know, we don't even know if he did have like clinical depression. Suicide and depression can be separate issues, but I catch myself thinking of what he felt like. You know, I've been suicidal multiple times in my life, and it always just hurts so much to see someone, to lose someone to that, especially one of your heroes, you know. But yeah, rest in peace to Twitch, rest in power. his legacy lives on, and his lessons live on, and the lives he changed are changed forever, you know. And yeah. So today's stream, sorry, I gotta adjust something here. You know, suicide can be such a hard thing to understand, and it's especially hard for someone who hasn't been there. Even for someone that has been there, it doesn't make sense. You know, once you're out of that dark place, it's like hard to believe that this was real, that you were there before, that it feels like it was a different lifetime, a different person. And I just kind of adjust this thing where I go on, because I have sensitive eyes and the bright light in the background is killing me. So hold on. Come on. I don't think it wants to adjust. So be it. I'll do what we gotta do. Alright. Oh well. I'll live. Hopefully it doesn't bother you too much. Maybe I'll just get out of frame a little more. Cool. That glow is intense now. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. Hold on. I can't. Once I get that in my head, now it's stuck. One moment, please. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. When my brain works, it was just a lot. So, whew. All right. So to get back into this. All right. So I think now I want to transition. I'm kind of thankful for that light now. I needed a change of headspace for a second there. So one thing people ask, and I know people ask after someone dies by suicide, is why. That's a hard question to answer. I don't know if I don't know if I even have all the answers, but I can give some ideas so people can start to understand. There's such a stigma around it all. People assume so many things, and people call it selfish, and don't have a lot of compassion for someone that ends up taking their own life. And I don't view it that way. I'm being honest, I view it a lot like something like cancer. You know, you can't will your way out of it. You know, you can go to all the treatments, and sometimes it still takes people, you know. And I'm not saying it's a one-to-one correlation, you know, because with something like depression and suicide, there are a lot more proven methods that work and that do help. And you know, I'm not saying that if you have depression or if you are suicidal that's the end game and there's no hope for you. I'm just saying that it's not the person's fault that they're suffering. It's depression. It's that dark thing. It's not. It's like, you know, when someone has cancer, you don't blame them for it. You don't get mad at them for not being able to combat it. You know, and that's what I mean. I'm talking about the stigma of it. I obviously never condone suicide, but I never blame anyone. I think that's maybe a hard thing to understand. Hopefully it made sense, but it's obviously never the best option. I'm not saying that, but it makes you, it just sucks the life out of everything, you know. People will look at Twitch, I think, and see like, oh yeah, he was so nice, he meant so much to so many people, he impacted so many people, which is all true. My senior year of high school was one of the most severely depressed I've ever been, and I got the nicest senior award, right? Like, what everyone sees isn't always what's really going on inside of somebody. So to move on a bit more, and I can't pretend to know exactly where Twitch was, what was going on in his life, in his head. So I will talk kind of generally and very personally about everything moving forward from here on out. So talk about depression, mood disorders, to get into that and start explaining a little more why these things happen. You know, mental health disorders have a way of making you feel like a burden, that people will be better off without you. And this is again me speaking a little more towards myself and some more common signs, common things in depression. Again, I'm not speaking directly about where Twitch was because we don't know. It makes you feel like, yeah, being dead is better than being alive. They say that suicide isn't necessarily someone wanting to be done with life. It's just that it seems like the only way to make the pain stop. And one thing depression does is a thing called anhedonia, which is where things that once brought you joy, happiness, positive feelings don't anymore, right? And when that is present, coupled with pains and traumas and just the dark weight that is set on people with mental health disorders, it can feel like the only way out is to die. That the only way to get out of this feeling, this challenging life, is just to go on. And with something like anhedonia, it's like you need such a high dosage of something to feel anything at all at times. Sometimes just a dulled sense, but at times it just seems it can take so much work to feel positive things. It can take so much work to feel happy, to feel love, to feel peace, to feel joy, to feel some release from the pain. Like, I don't think some people realize how hard it is, just how hard it really is when you're there. You know, and there's different types of depression. So if you're taking notes, now's the time. There's, you know, situational depression, which is where, you know, something happens in your life, maybe you lose someone, So there's grief, and then there's psychological, which is dealing more with like your negative thought patterns, negative beliefs about yourself, about the world, cognitive distortions where you just can't see a positive truth. There's biological, which is more of a chemical imbalance. So, the neurotransmitters and things like that. I don't get too sciencey and technical. They're not firing how they should. You're not producing enough of the positive chemicals, or your body isn't absorbing them enough. And that's where, with situational, psychological, that's where things like therapy really help, where you almost need those things in order to get through those. And then there's another form of depression, that's existential depression. And I think this isn't a scientific thing, it's more my personal kind of view on it all. Existential depression, it's arguably one of the hardest to treat. It's existentialism itself focuses on death, meaninglessness, isolation, freedom. And when you get to a place of being suicidal, it's an existential question, an existential crisis, an existential depression. You get to, existentialism asks, like, what's the meaning of life? Is there a God? Is there an afterlife? Is there meaning? What is meaning? What's my purpose? And depression will come and tell you that none of that matters. There's no purpose. There's no good. There's no hope. It doesn't matter if you go or not. Or even that it's better if you go or not. And so existential depression can be extremely hard. It says we're all going to die anyway. So why not now? Even the people in our life, the people that we're helping, they're going to pass away anyway. So why not now? Like, I've been that headspace. I was in that headspace for so long. So I know what it's like. I know the danger of it. There's just so much suffering in the world, and depression can put on lenses where that's all you can see. You can't see anything else other than darkness. And the only thing you feel is the weight of it all. Right? It's hard to go there again sometimes. And another dangerous thing that it can create in people is this kind of dual identity, where there's a person that everyone sees, right? There's the nicest senior, Josh. There's the Instagram Twitch, right? But when the camera's off, when they're home alone at night, it flips, it switches. And I don't know, maybe some of you have done it before or felt it before, something similar, where say you're at a thing, you're having a conversation at work or party or whatever, and like in the moment you feel like you're in it, right? You're actually engaged, you're actually all that, and then as soon as like you turn around, you go to the bathroom, you walk out, you get to your car, it's just like, and this nothing. It doesn't matter anymore. Like the feeling's past. And with depression, it can be a huge swing. And when I was being nice to people, when I was helping people, it was genuine. It was coming from a genuine place. It was Sorry. It was real. It wasn't me faking it. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, so I don't want to go too far ahead. But it creates this duality, and both are real in a way. I'll come back to that. I have some notes because otherwise I'd be all over the place right now, and helps me not let my emotions take over if I have like a guide to follow. So let me keep following this thing here. But I guess one last point on that duality, what makes it so hard, that you can go through the whole day feeling good, but then you have this thought that, and just this knowledge that it's gonna flip though. You know, sometimes I equate that dark experience like, you know, if you watch Stranger Things, there's the upside down, and that's a lot of. I mean, you've seen the show, hopefully, maybe. If you haven't, you should, because it's good. Where Will, you know, he gets in the upside down, where like he's with his friends, and then what they're experiencing, they're at an arcade having fun, but it flips for him, and what he's seeing and experiencing is a whole different, almost reality, a whole different realm, right? And yeah, sorry, it's my mind's all over the place right now because I'm trying to keep all the emotions at bay while still trying to be, you know, educating. Easily distracted at the moment too. This is tough stuff, man. I wanted to do this Wednesday, like right after it happened. I started writing for this. It was just too much. I wanted to do it yesterday. It was too much. Today it's a lot, but it's not too much. So, okay. Sorry. It's all a lot. So keep this going. I want to get into something I wrote a long time ago to try to explain my experience with depression. Because I always wanted to make sense of it. That's pretty much a big goal of mine in life, is to make it make sense for myself and for others to understand it. So the explanation I came up with, I call it the realms of light. So there's kind of, in this model, there's like, let's see, 6 different ways people experience life. So one is what I call the full light spectrum. And that's where, you know, you're standing fully in the sun. There's no darkness at all. All there are is vibrant colors. Everything seems perfect, feels perfect. We seek moments like this. You know, it could be a birthday, it could be a wedding, it could be a big accomplishment that you've been dreaming of. That for me was standing on a stage, taking that final bow after a dance performance. It's not a permanent state, but it's something we all seek to have and seek to obtain. We look at people on social media like this is their reality all the time, right? Where they're standing just fully in the sun at all times. Everything's perfect. But it is not true, obviously. You know, we all hope to have the experience, and I hope you do have these experiences, but it's not realistic to have them all the time. We look at someone like tWitch, his family's accomplishments, and assume things were kind of like this. Everything was perfect. the dream life. The next realm on this is just the daylight. That's what we all kind of have, we'll hope to have consistently, right? I think of it like the summer of life. There's less darkness, less cold. And if there is, it's not in our lives exactly. You know, it's too somewhat of a temporary place, but it's just those positive experiences throughout the day, those moments of peace. It's the weekend. I think that's the best way to explain it. It's the weekend of all this, where it's just that release, that positivity. Next is the natural light cycle, which is kind of where we're at day to day. It's the sun rises, sun sets, and life has its ups and downs, but there's a balance, and hopefully the good outweighs the bad, light outweighs the dark, but there's still kind of up and down, right? And that's kind of the natural place everyone's in. Excuse me. All right. The next one is the gray fog. And that's where we kind of start getting into more of depression and that anhedonia, right, where things aren't the same. And this is where things are, life's in black and white. Everything's dulled. There's light, but there's not color. You know, there's some warmth that can be had, some beauty that can be seen, beauty that can be found, but it's just dulled out a little bit. You know, I was looking at a photo in black and white versus seeing the vibrant, saturated colors of it. And this, you know, some people call this just feeling blah, feeling meh, feeling you know, we've all been that. We've all had that mood. We've all had that. You know, I'm not gonna explain it too much more. The next ones are where it starts to get darker. The next one's what I call the shadows. And that's where you not only can't feel the light, but you can't really see it. You're stuck in the shadows of everything. And one of the hardest parts about being here is that you can still see that everyone else is in the light. And everyone else can still see the sun and feel it, but you can't. And the things that bring you joy don't anymore. You know, if you've never been depressed, then it's like when, you know, if you had COVID and you couldn't taste anything, right? Even your favorite food had zero flavor. You couldn't smell anything. It's like that. You're living life, but you're not feeling it. You're not capable of feeling it, at least in those moments. And for some people, it's a very short-term thing, which is great. And some people, it's get stuck there for a long time. And how you couldn't taste food, how much would you care about going out to eat? How much would you care about having food experiences? You know, food is such a big part of our life and culture, right? Like, imagine if you couldn't taste food anymore. It would take a lot away in a way, right? Like, I'm sure you've already eaten some today or drink something today that you enjoyed having, like the taste of. Like, imagine waking up knowing that you have to scarf down this food that tastes like nothing. Or even worse, it's terrible, tastes terrible. Because it's not just sometimes that you can't feel anything anymore, it's that what you feel mostly is bad. The bad things outweigh it all. It's what you feel the most. And I don't know, I hope that all makes sense. I feel like I always need to explain it more. I know there's so many people that don't understand it. in a way, I hope people never do fully understand it. But I'm hoping this is enough just for you to understand why someone getting to this place would start to consider dying. You know, even in this place, in the shadows, it's like you can't even feel love, you know? Like you can't. And someone says they love you, and like cognitively that means something to you. It has significance, it has meaning, but you don't feel anything. You know, imagine like, you know, hugging someone that you care about. There's emotion to that, right? It's not just I am hugging you as a sign that I like you. You know, there's feelings to it. So imagine not having those feelings, not being able to, right? Like I'm just getting like flashbacks to the times in my life where I was feeling that. You know, you I was so sure I wouldn't get all emotional. Here I am. Gosh. Oh, guys, this is I knew this would suck. I knew this would suck, but like, gosh, dang it. All right. Um, dang it. I broke the seal. All right, guys, floodgates are open. You know, okay, I'll give this example because it's what came to mind. It is sad. I'll get out, of course. Okay. Just to drive the point home, so people can understand how hard this getting in this kind of spot is, and what I imagine, where I imagine Twitch was. Um, you know, when I was in this place in my life, so use hugs as an example. Use hugs as an example again. I love hugs. Hugs are like my favorite thing in the world. And you know, so whenever I see my mom or we're saying goodbye, we give a nice long hug. And it's one of my favorite things. And I just remember being in that spot and, you know, hugging my mom and not feeling anything from it. And oh gosh. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine having that? Feeling that? Feeling you know, so when they say they love you, you know it means something, but you can't, it doesn't even reach you. Imagine having to still get up and go to work, get up and go to school, Yeah, there's one thing I hope you guys never can understand our experience, but I want you to at least be able to have sympathy for it. Yeah, it's a crazy place to be in, you know. I'm not there anymore. Thank God. So many people are. I'd bet someone you know right now is. All right, we got to keep this moving. So the next part of this, there's one more. Gosh, you thought that was bad. There's one more thing under that. There's one more even worse spot to be in. I call it the dark forest. And gosh, I'm sorry. I gotta collect myself a bit more here. One second. Okay. So yeah, you thought that was bad. It gets worse. So the next part is they call the dark forest, and light doesn't reach there at all. You know, it's from the dark place in fantasy movies, right, where no light reaches there. You seem lost in that you'll never get out of it. And you start to question if the sun even exists. You know, so like part of being in the shadows I mentioned was that even though you can't feel it, still know that other people can. And that's where, you know, why I was still getting the nicest senior award, because I knew that other people could still feel happiness and joy and peace, even though I couldn't. I imagine someone like tWitch, who was, you know, by all reports, all about other people, seeing them fully, being there for them, listening intently. It's being a joy, bringing smiles to people's faces, you know, because he knew that we could still feel it. He knew that the audience on Ellen could still feel it. He knew that his family could feel it. His kids could feel it. So when you get to this dark forest, you start to wonder if any of that even matters. You know, it goes back again, that existential idea. You know, maybe we're all delusional and none of this matters, kind of thing. You know, and oh gosh. And I just can't help the full memories from when I was there, you know. Gosh. It brings you through some traumatic experiences, really. It's hard to look back at those times, you know. And when you're in that headspace, when you're in that dark forest, it just, you're trapped there, and death begins to feel like the only way out of it. There's just an existential dread that sets in, and there's some some release from it now and then, you know, where Like for me, for example, like when I was dancing, I was truly happy. I was truly enjoying that. But the end of the night, going back to home, was like you just knew that you were going back to this forest where it wasn't anything but darkness. And eventually it's just like that darkness creeps into everything else, right? Where even while you're, it's like again the upside down idea from Stranger Things, where even when you're with your friends now, all of a sudden like that darkness is there, and that you're in the forest, even though no one else is. You're in the forest, and I don't know. I can keep going on in that forever. I'm not going to though. Mm. Well, there's rare people like Twitch who I think could be in that headspace, but still, even when they're still making a point to make everyone else happy and smile and feel something. When you're there, when you're someone like Twitch, and if it were saying someone like me, but the force driving them forward, the belief in good, belief in light, belief in smiles and happiness and laughter and love and the importance of those things, the force driving them forward to give that to everyone else is only matched by the force pulling them down, pulling them down back into the forest, into the darkness. And so it gets so exhausting. It gets so exhausting. I mean, it's a constant battle to create light when all you feel is darkness, It's tough. I put in here a note to pause and breathe, and I guess I'd like to remind anyone else watching to do the same. Just this stuff is heavy and it's dark and it's rough, and you want to pretend it doesn't exist sometimes. I know I do. But just take a pause for a second and just make sure you're breathing. Take a deep breath. At the end of this, I should have some time, and I'll answer some questions. So if you have any questions on any of this stuff, leave them in the comments and stick around and we can have some conversation. Just commune together for a bit. Be present with each other. Ooh, all right. Again, I know this is dark. It's dark stuff. Clearly. And again, I'm going to be talking about solutions, because I don't believe that anyone that gets to the forest is in the shadows has to be stuck there. And there are ways out of it, but I think it's hard to forgive. Sometimes we're like, look at someone Twitch and like, why didn't you just keep trying? Why didn't you tell somebody? Why didn't you open up? Why didn't you go to therapy? Why didn't you take medication? Like all these things. But I shared all the things I shared because I want you to understand just how heavy it is. And it's so hard when you believe, again, like I believe now that even if I go back to the forest, I know I can get out again. But imagine if you don't believe that. If you believe that you're stuck, you get stuck there, and that you can't get back out, and that it's just gonna keep encroaching on your life more and more until that's all there is. And I think that's why people commit suicide. They don't believe they don't believe it can get better. I'm proof that it can. I guess. I know other people too that have been there and made it out, and All right. So I have notes, so I can just keep moving along here. Solutions, we'll get there. You know, Twitch's life was exactly what I thought once would save me from my depression. You know, success, a family, money, being well known, not just for your talent, but for who you are as a person, being a genuinely good person. But one thing I've learned from my depression and seeing people like Twitch go is that, you know, depression and the siren call of suicide, as I like to call it. They don't care about any of those things. They don't care that you're loved. Sorry, I sounded so I don't know, cynical when I said that. Depression doesn't care that you're loved. It doesn't care that you have a family. It doesn't care that you have a great job, a career, and people that you're helping. That's not to say that those things don't actually matter, but depression convinces you that they don't. You could have everything in the world, and depression will just suck the life out of it. It'll drain the sun, as I say. And I wanted to keep getting lighter, but it keep getting darker. You know, when you have depression and you're suicidal, you just it feels like a death sentence. You know, it just feels like no matter what you do, you're gonna end up dead. And I don't know. I hope some of you guys probably came here like hoping to understand and feel okay about all this stuff. But gosh dang, we'll get there. We'll get there. I promise. We'll get there. I'm a firm believer in sitting in the pain sometimes and sitting in the dark. You know, because it's real. And I thought I'd be able to almost fly right through this. I timed it out and it was like, I can get through this in a half hour. Here we go. I knew it ended up not being that. Anyway. I think one thing I want people to understand is that even when I was suicidal, there were still some genuinely happy moments, you know? I was in a long-term relationship. I loved my job. I had good friends, loving close family. In school for one of my passions. And living my best life, as some would say. If you go to Twitch's Instagram, you know, my last videos was him dancing with his wife, you know? And he's smiling. And one of those moments where it's like, they seem so in love and we want that same thing, right? And I think people will question if that's real. People will look at that and be like, it must not have been a real smile, or he must not really been feeling that. I argue differently. A lot of times when you're in that place mentally, like, you appreciate those moments more than anybody else, you know? And that could be, I think it was a real smile that they were sharing, a real moment they were sharing. And I hope, you know, I doubt someone like, you know, Allison is listening to this, but I've seen it before where people question, like, were any of those things real then? Like, how much of this relationship was real? How much of our experiences were real? And they are. I can tell you, as someone that's been there, those were real moments, you know? Maybe even more real, because in some ways, maybe he knew death was coming, that those moments matter so much and meant so much and mean so much, and they were real. They were so real, you know? when you're in the forest. So those you appreciate those moments, but they're not enough to keep you going. One of Twitch's friends and fellow dancers shared his last experience with Twitch, and they had some friends get together. To dance, and he said Twitch danced so hard that night, and was drenched in sweat when he was walking out just because he danced so hard. And that image makes me emotional because I remember the nights where I literally would dance until I couldn't breathe, blasting music in my headphones that drown out dark thoughts and keep my body moving to keep the other things at bay. And there were times where I'd have to dance that hard just to feel something. There were times I had to dance that hard just to keep the negative thoughts quiet. You know, dance was the greatest force pulling me forward, the greatest force pulling me away from the dark place, and one of the only things that just made me feel something good, you know? Again, this why some of this is so hard for me with Twitch, because in that season of my life, he was one of the reasons I was dancing, why I kept dancing. Never felt more alive than performing. When I was in my depression, my forest, I remember just dancing on stage and how that I felt made me feel alive for the first time in a while. It was like basking in the sun, the stage lights, you know. So we talked a lot about, I think, why people get to that mental point where they think about dying and why they sometimes do. And at this point, I really do want to transition to why I'm here, why I'm still here after being there. Okay. You know. Okay, so I'm struggling to go to this part because it's something I don't talk about. I haven't really been. There's a very, very few people that know this about me. And but it's real and it needs to be talked about. It's not talked about enough, and I think that maybe if it gets talked about more, it'll help keep someone else from going down the road, because it's a hard thing, and so many people suffer in silence, suffer alone, and we don't talk about it till it's too late. And we don't see it while it's happening. So, confession time. I'm not going to specify a timeline exactly, just because personal reasons, but there was 10 years straight. Gosh, it's such a long time. I think about it after looking back. My gosh. There were 10 years straight where I thought about my death every single day. Every day. Imagine that, right? Contemplating not just dying, but taking your own life every single day. It wasn't that I was planning on every single day I was at risk, but I had what I call an expiration date. And at a certain age, I was like, all right, I'm going to get myself to this date, to this time, this age. And I'm going to do everything I can in that time to make the world better. But after that, I'm done. I'm gone. I thought about that every day. For 10 years. I'm far from that now. But it's just the reality for people, you know? Like, I would be coaching kids, right? And I'm coaching them. I'm thinking, will they miss me if I'm gone? Will they remember me? You know? And I'd be trying so hard to make sure everyone else was good. I was there for 10 years. You know, I got to the point where the date was approaching. You know, a plan was set. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Exactly how I would go. But something in me just asked, what if you're wrong? I don't know where that voice came from. But, you know, I was so sure that of everything. I was talking about the existentialism, like didn't matter, that wouldn't matter if I left, that everyone would be okay, that they'd be better off without me. That the things I did didn't really matter anyway. Any person I helped, I believe that, you know, if I helped someone, it was only gonna last for a little bit and it's gonna go right back to where it was. And I believe that fully. As much as I believe I'm talking to you right now. Watch, no one's watching. So am I talking to anybody? No, just kidding. I think there's some people watching. Sorry, humor is the only way you get through some of this stuff sometimes. Anyway, wow, my brain sometimes. I just fully believe that, you know, dying was the best thing for me. As much as I believe that, like, after this I should eat, like, I believe that I needed to go, you know? That was a reality for me. 10 years. But again, something came in and just said, like, what if you're wrong? What if it does matter? What if you matter? What if that's that question enough? And I started asking what if, you know? So 8 months before my expiration date, I decided that I'd find out. I'm a scientist at heart, and when there's a hypothesis, I want to test it. And look at the evidence to make a decision. So the hypothesis was, what if you're wrong? Meaning, what if life has meaning? What if what you're doing is important? So I knew that if I kept it to myself, I would go back to the same place again. So I reached out to some friends and called a group of close friends together, and we met up, had dinner, and I went into it telling them I just wanted to tell them something, talking about something, and I told them about my life. I told them about how the last 10 years I thought about dying every single day. I told them that I had a date set that I was planning on going, but me coming out to them about it was me saying I'm not going yet. I'm not done yet. Because what if? I made a commitment there to try again, to try life again, and to live as if it mattered, to live as if it can get better. Again, I was still in that forest where I wasn't feeling much. And I just so badly wish I could like figure out what it was that exactly, so I can pass it on, so I can share it, so I can box it up and pass it to people. But there was just something that said to me, what if, I want to there's what we call survivor's guilt. I deal with that a lot, right? Where, why did I survive? I don't know. Someone like tWitch goes, but I'm still here. What the heck? Doesn't really make sense sometimes. But again, I don't know, something said, what if you keep going? And I did. And I checked out. I tried to figure out. So, I connected with new people. I connected with philosophy, looking at new worldviews, creating my own meaning and purpose. And here I am. I'm still here. I was in the forest for a long time, and it's a crazy place, man. Crazy place. One thing I can say for anyone that's there, the thing that can save you might be unique to you. I know it's maybe vague, but I'm a man of faith, but so I feel wrong saying this, but it's true for where I was at. It's true. My faith wasn't enough to convince me. Religion wasn't enough to convince me that life was worth living. And that's not to discredit any of that, because my faith is incredibly important to me. It's a big reason why I still keep going to this day. But I'm talking about in those moments, in those darkest moments. I mean, the idea with being with God, going to heaven, that was like more reason to go. I had plenty of reasons to die. I had a million reasons to die. Okay, million's a lot, not a million. I'm being dramatic, I guess. I had a dozen reasons to die. And I had to find reasons that were bigger to stay alive. And there's ones that people tell you all the time. You know, they'll tell you because you're family, because of love, because there's so much to live for, so much to be happy for, so much joy to find in life, so much sun out there. Sorry, and again, I know because I know a lot. We say these things to people all the time. Those things do say those things to people. I'm not saying you shouldn't say those things to people, but again, when you're in the dark forest place, it's hard to hear them. They don't. It's like it's falling. Those words fall into like an empty hole, you know. At times, but you should keep saying them because there's times where they do hit. But if you're in the place where none of that is seeming real or seeming like it matters, you have to create. Sometimes you have to create your own reason. You almost have to. It feels like you're playing make believe, but you make up something that is something to strive for, a reason to keep going. You know. For me, it started with that idea of what if it can get better. You know, like if that's a possibility, I have to try. I have to actually give it a chance. I didn't fully believe it at the time, but I had to try. Scientists sent me one over. I had to test the hypothesis. But let me go back on what I said a little bit with something about something like faith not being enough at the time. My faith as it was not enough at the time. My philosophy on life, my current worldview wasn't enough at the time. The way I believed in God wasn't enough at the time. And I had to do a lot of exploring on new ways of viewing the world, new ways of viewing God and my relationship with Him, new ways of viewing purpose and passion and what it all means. And I'm not going to go fully into my whole philosophical views on humanity and existence, but I would say it's outside the norm. And it's kind of, I had to find what fit. Because depression was telling me that nothing mattered. And I had to find a reason it did. And I did, you know. But it's different for everybody. You know, I have clients that are dealing with some of this stuff, and you know, giving them my personal philosophy doesn't always help them, but it's helping them find their own. There's sorry, I lost myself. I have notes because to keep myself on track somewhat, because my mind is everywhere with the emotions and things. I lost track of where I was for a second. So, there we go. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. It's a lot, you know. Still in a place of grieving a little bit, a lot of it. Okay, get back to it. I was talking about the solutions for it all. Not the answers for it all. I don't have all the answers, but some possible solutions, right? If you're like me, you see someone like Twitch go, you struggle to think that you deserve to be here. Like, and if someone like Twitch passed, like, why do I deserve to still be here? If depression could take Twitch, if suicidal ideations and that darkness can take Twitch, it's probably it's probably gonna take me, you know. One of my first thoughts is when I saw it was like, if he can go, hope do I have, you know? Even though I left the forest hasn't left me fully. It still has a hook in me, right? I still hear that siren song now and then. I have anchors now that hold me steady and keep me from going back there, but you hear that, just that notion, that inkling in the back of your brain that says, this is you someday. Matter of time. I've seen a lot of people in the mental health circles I run in have talked about that. Like, it's just, when you see someone go, it's just like, you wonder if you're next almost, you know? It's crazy. I'm reminded though of thinking about what got me through that time. I'm starting to remember more specifics on kind of what got me through. I'm big on narrative therapy, which is where you separate yourself from the problem and you create a narrative where you identify your strengths and you see yourself as the hero of the story, and the problem becomes this villain, right? This villain that you're fighting. Depression has a way of telling you that you're the problem, and it has a way of, that darkness has a way of telling you that it's the truth and it's you, and that darkness is you, that you are that darkness, right? And there's no light left in you. And when you separate that out, and again, it's a long process. It was not a quick process, not just like, you know, but I began to separate that out of myself, where I was not seeing myself as the issue. I was seeing depression as the issue. I was seeing this darkness as the issue, as something to fight. That I wasn't the thing that needed to go, then to die. It was depression that needed to die. It was just darkness that needed to be pulled out, right? That gave me, that's what kind of started all for me, like this idea that maybe I can fight this, right? That what if question is, what if I can win? What if I can fight this and win? You know, like I said, it's when you're suicidal and you're in the shadows in the dark forest, it's like, it feels like a death sentence, and it convinces you that the death is the only way out. And when I separated the depression from myself and saw it as something else, something outside of me to fight, you know, I started to believe I could win. I could win that fight. I tried hard enough and long enough, I could win, you know. And in that, I kind of found my purpose, and I started my quest, my Lord of the Rings journey, right? And that's, I don't know, so I'm here today, honestly. Someone on my Facebook said how seeing Twitch go feels personal. And it is to me. Me and Twitch and many others have the same villain, same antagonist, the same Sauron, the same Death Star, whatever. Nerd. Oh, sorry, I have to use humor. It's just too much sometimes, you know. It's personal though, because that villain that I'm fighting took another one. Our shared villain won won a battle against somebody. Took away Twitch. And to me, that's why it is so personal. Because one, because I know I've been there, and two, because I do see depression and just that this darkness of suicidality I see it as my villain, my thing to overcome, to beat. And that's why I'm doing this live stream, is to try to take some power back from it. Like a superhero movie where your villain ends up hurting people that you care about, right? You take it personal. So for anyone that is struggling right now, I encourage you to try to separate it from yourself. You are not that. You are not the darkness. You are not the problem. Depression is the problem. You're not the problem. The suicidal thoughts are the problem. And dying isn't the only way to get rid of those. You have to recognize that it's not you. It's this outside force that's entered your life. It's like virus almost, that needs to be extracted, we'll say. And then you can fight it, The voice that's saying that you need to die is a liar, Again, it's that villain. I see it as a villain. I see it as this real tangible villain that comes to people and tells them that, just as he told me, that it's time to go. That life isn't worth living. The love you have in your life doesn't matter. It's a lie, I still struggle to feel it sometimes. I still struggle with feeling love and feeling a lot of things. But I know that's not the truth. I know that that's not the reality that I'm destined for always, And that's true for everyone, I believe. One of my favorite songs is called Looking Down the Barrel of Today by Hatebreed. It's a metal song, if you couldn't tell by the titles and name of the band. But in the song, he's talking about, there's a time where he looked down the barrel of a gun, ready to die at his own hand. And it's about flipping the script and that he's still going. One of my favorite line is a song where he screams, like, still here, Yesterday in my car on the way to work, I was feeling it bad, still really, I'm still feeling it now. Just thinking about the loss of Twitch, and it was hitting hard again. So I have playlists for different moods, and I put on my playlist for when I need to be reminded. My note to self playlist, I call it. And this song came on, and it's just rage. And it was foggy outside, and I was just I looked out into the fog as if the fog was like that villain I was talking about, that dark fog that can come overtake you. And I was just saying, I'm still here, screaming it, still here, despite everything has put me through, despite the dark times, the just scary, traumatic times. I'm still here. And again, the idea of separating it out from me and just sitting it down and just screaming at it like, you can't take me. I'm still here. I'm still going, still fighting. It's powerful stuff, man. The painting behind me is a reminder to me of why I keep going. I talked about when you can't find meaning, sometimes you have to create your own. When you can't feel the sun, so you have to create your own light. And I'm not going to tell you everything the painting means. I don't tell people. But it signifies for me what my purpose is and the reason I keep going, the reason I keep fighting, even if there are hard days still. I call it my firefly in the dark forest. You know, it was just that thing that even though everything's dark and pitch black, like there's just that glimmer of light that reminded me that there's light in the world, you know. And sometimes that's all there is. It's just that little flicker, a little thing in the distance that corner your eye. You're like, wait, you know, was that real? You know. Sometimes there's a whole swarm of fireflies, right? That lights up the whole air around you. But even then, like, just finding that thing, finding and holding on to that thing that just reminds you there's light and there's a reason to keep going, you know, and holding on to that. I just want that so badly for everyone to have that, you know. I'm gonna share the fireflies. It hurts so much seeing people go to die by suicide. Because I truly believe it's preventable, that it's possible to get there and survive, you know. Start moving towards closing this out. You know, if you identify with what I talked about today, if it's you, if you're in the shadows, if you're in the forest, death isn't the only way out of it. It feels like that. I believe that. Every part of me believed that. 10 years. If you're just chumming in late, I encourage you to rewind back a ways, and I talk about, you know, my own experience with being suicidal, and I thought about death for 10 years straight, my own death for 10 years straight. I believed it 100% that was the best way to go. But I'm still here. I made it. You know, if you're dealing with most types of depression, the situation, biological, psychological, medication, therapy really do work. They really do. You know, I've been doing therapy now for, I don't even know how, I can't do math right now. Who knows? Years. And it's been so cool seeing clients go from a place where they wanted to die, you know, we're in session and they're talking about how badly they want to go. And fast forward 2 years. And the example I'm thinking of is 2 years, but sometimes it's just a week, sometimes it's a month. But fast forward just some time with therapy and medication, and they're living life again, you know. It's possible. Some people it takes longer. It takes a while to find the right medication and the right thing. And I can't say that, you know, it all takes the pain away, takes the depression away completely. Can't say that you'll never hear the siren call of the forest again. But you just slowly have more and more reasons to keep going. And that numbness just it starts to go away a little bit. You start to feel a little more at a time. The night sky gets a little brighter, you know. You know, it's still dark. There's stars now that are lighting up the sky a little bit. And you get to that spot eventually where it's like, I can do this. It's not an easy road. It's not easy at all. But it's possible. I believe it. And that's one thing that makes suicide so hard, is that I believe it's preventable. I believe there is. I know it's possible. I know there's a way to get out of that forest. And if you're dealing with the existential depression, it's one of the hardest ones to go to deal with. Again, that's where I was at for a very long time. And I always hate this part because it's like I want to tell you that it just goes away. You try hard enough. It doesn't fully. You know, every day is a fight sometimes where you're still fighting to find the meaning in it. You're fighting to feel something, fighting to, you know, you have that existential side that says like there's questions all the time if this matters, if life matters, if it's worth going, if it's worth living, if it's worth food is worth eating, if love is worth loving, well, you know, worth having. And because it gets you to this place where you just believe, oh, it's gonna go anyway, all gonna pass, it's never gonna, nothing's gonna last and stay, so why does it matter? You know, you have those questions constantly, every day. Sometimes, not every day. Now, it was every day for a very long time. Now it's not every day. Thank God. It takes time, unfortunately. It could take a long time. But I can tell you that it can get better even with this, even when every fiber of your being believes that and questions if it matters. Get into therapy. Find people to talk to. Talk about it. Talk about it. That's one of the things that saved me, was talking about it. Was telling people exactly where I actually was, the truth of it. You know, because it's separate from just like normal depression, where you know you tell someone you're depressed and it's like, yeah, like there's known symptoms of that, but like I don't even know. I hope that I was able to explain well enough today, like what it's like being in that place where it's beyond depression. Really, it's this emptiness, this darkness, this heavy thing. It grows in silence, so, and it needs to be shared and talked about, and that brings light into it. And me telling those close friends what was actually happening was one of the things that helped me separate it again from myself, so that I could actually try to fight it. Common worry is that it's contagious, that I'm going to pass it on to somebody if I talk about it too much. But it's not. Fortunately, not everyone will be afflicted by such things. But there's hope. I want to hammer that home for everybody. There's hope for you if you're in that place. I know it because I'm still here. I've actually only personally met 2 people that I feel like were in the same kind of mix of like existential dread and existential questioning and the experience of that. I know there are like thousands of people out there like this, but I've only ever met 2 people that talked about it. There's people that talk about it in their suicide notes. In my lifetime, I met 2 people that talked about it while they were there, and you see actual feelings of it all and what it's like to be there. You know, but I think the fact that I think me and those other people were still alive is because we talked about it, and we can separate it from ourselves and decided to fight it. You know. Like I said, there's so many people that have lost the battle to it. It just doesn't have to be this way, you know? I don't know what it's going to take. I'm going to keep trying. Just make sure every single person knows that it's possible to get to that place and come back from it and actually live a full life and experience a full life. And I don't know how to just show you. I want to just like prove it. And it's, I don't know how to do that. Other than sitting here talking about it now, you know, I hope I'm enough proof. I don't know. I just want everyone to know that it's not a death sentence, that there can be life on the other side of it all, you know? I just want that so bad. I think I cried enough earlier that I'm not going to cry again now. So. Just start closing it out again. I know what it's like to survive, try to survive in the dark alone. You know, I want to tell people that are depressed, I want to do the normal thing and just say, I hope you know that I love you. But I know that's not enough. Sometimes when you're there, you can't even feel that when you're there, you know. But I want you to know that I see you. I see you there, and I see what it's like. I know what it's like to be there, and that you're not alone there, and that I just want you to know that there's hope. It's possible to get out of there. I want you to have your fireflies, you know. I want something to prove that there's light. And I guarantee if you look for it long enough and hard enough, you will find it. It took me a long time, 10 years, but I found it, and I'm here. And I believe that, truly believe no one has to go. I just need people to know that. If you're someone that's in that place where you're considering going, like, you just need to know that it doesn't have to be that way. Death doesn't have to be the only option, you know. It seems like it's the only way to make the pain end. Again, you talk about that quote, like they say that it's something that people want. They don't want. It's not that they don't want to be alive. It's that seems like the only way to make the pain stop. And I promise you, death isn't the only way. It's not. I'll have to make another stream and going in the future talking more about it, I guess, but I guarantee you if we try, we'll make it out together. We'll learn to survive. Create our own light. Create our own reasons to keep living. It's possible. And I believe that with everything in me. I have to believe that. Just keep going, keep fighting. And I'll fight with you, you know. If you're there, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Anytime at all. I'm a night owl. I'm up all night. Happy to be up all night. The best time. Everyone else is asleep. The world's quiet when everyone else is asleep. And of course, that's when the demons like to come out too, though. The witching hour, you know. Feel free to reach out anytime. Contact me. Social media. If you have my number, use my number. You don't have to fight it alone. It's easier to get through the forest with a guide, someone that's been there before. if you're someone that's wondering how you can help people in your life that are experiencing these things, I'll be doing a live stream next week that's focused on helping people in your life that are depressed or suicidal, and talk about what to do. The short version is listen, be present, don't judge, don't try to fix it. Just be there for them and let them speak their reality out loud without judgment, and try to help them find the fireflies in the night. You can't, a lot of times you really can't give someone yours. You can't. It's helping them find their own. You might share some, but as much as someone that was suicidal, as much as when I was there, hearing someone tell me they love me, I couldn't feel it sometimes. But there are times where it did come through. It did hit. It did mean something. So keep saying that. Keep letting people know you're there for them and that you care about them. And then actually be there for them. Actually reach out. Actually show up. Don't even just say, call me if you need something. You call them and see if they need anything. There's a way out of all this stuff. It's really dark. It's really heavy. I really do think that we can end suicide. So next week I'll talk about that. For people that want to know how to help people in their life, I'll have to talk about that. I'd like it to be more collaborative, more of a, answering questions in the comments, and more of a us having a conversation than me just throwing a bunch of things at you. So please come ready to share, come with questions. Ask questions ahead of time too. I'll answer them. I'll go through a time where I read pre-asked questions, and then I don't even know how to word right now. I'll answer questions that you asked previously. I'll read them off and answer them. There we go. I'm really smart, guys. And we'll just have a conversation. We'll sit together and talk about it. And then next Wednesday, I'm planning a Blue Christmas stream. Blue Christmas is, as it implies, for those of us that the holidays are harder, honestly, than other times of the year. Everything's merry and bright. It's supposed to be, but something about it just feels, honestly, when you've experienced some of these things mental health wise, like, it seems so fake sometimes and seems so artificial. And also, like, if you're in that spot where you can't feel it too, like in the 10-year span I talked about, the Christmas spirit, I didn't feel that for a long time. I remember tangibly though that when I first felt it again, oh my gosh. There's hope, guys. But I'm doing a Blue Christmas stream because it's just tough. It's a tough time of year when you've lost people, when you are going through a hard time, when there's trauma, when there's suffering, when you don't have the family that you see on all over TV and talked about, when you don't have that love that you want to have this time of year. It's a Blue Christmas. So I think it's important for us that feel that and go through that to join together and not try to make Christmas just and pretend it's all merry and bright, but just to again sit in that feelings and be together in that feelings, and us being together in that kind of alleviates a lot of the weight of it. So thanks for watching and listening. If you have any questions, punch them in the comments now. I got a few more minutes I can stay on here. This was a tough topic, tough day. Went on a lot longer than I planned it, but thanks for tuning in for y'all that did. Thing about YouTube, you can rewind it and rewatch it back. I'll leave this up so you can see it. I encourage you to watch chunks of it. But yeah, again, if you have any comments, questions, ask them in the comments now. I need to take a quick break, reset, and refresh. And yeah. So I'll be right back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Hopefully learning something. Hope you got something out of this. And we'll keep going, guys. We'll keep fighting. We'll keep growing together. So stick around if you want to chat. All right. I'll be right back. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any questions in the comments. Hopefully it's... I think it's working, yeah. So yeah, if there are any questions in there, we'll just call it a day here. Again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Covered a lot of things, a lot of dark stuff. I hope that it didn't bring you down. I hope you left with some hope and belief that things can get better. They get better, man. So thanks for watching, guys. This was a tough one. Huh. It's funny. So even now, like as soon as I stepped out of the room, went to the bathroom, like I had a thought, like, did it matter though? Did it? Did you really explain anything well enough, right? There's that voice in the head still, right? But it's funny when you get to the point where you're able to separate it out. It's almost like it's just humorous. I know that some things I could explain better, but I know this mattered. And that's kind of the secret. I know it mattered. It's weird to even say that. Used to be able to not even say that. There I am. Still here. Doing things that matter. Even if they suck sometimes, even if I'm not good at it sometimes, not the best orator, the best writer, best anything. But I'm here and I'm trying. Adding what I can to the pot. It's worth it. It's worth doing. So thank you all for tuning in. It encourages me to see people checking in and watching to keep doing this thing. So thank you a lot. Appreciate all of you. I love all of you. And I'll see you soon.